Hello, my name is Carl Stevens, and I am the priest in charge at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church here in Columbus on OSU's campus. And I am coming to you live today on behalf of Bread, which is seeking a meeting with Mayor Gunther to speak about all sorts of things, most particularly about the coming housing and eviction crisis. But today I am going to speak about restorative justice, which will be part of Bread's agenda when they have a chance to meet with Mayor Gunther. And I'm going to speak about restorative justice by telling you a brief personal story about why I think it's important. When I was in 6th and 7th grade, I was bused from the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin to the inner city. And I was bused because I was part of the German immersion program that Milwaukee Public Schools had. So I, a white child, took a bus into a predominantly African-American school. The German immersion program took place really in only one classroom in this giant school. And it was the only classroom where white people were really in evidence. And even there, it was about 50-50, about 50% white kids and 50% African-American kids. So for me, it was a wonderful experience in that I got out of my white suburban bubble and I went and I got to participate in other communities and learn a lot from that experience. And one of the things I learned was about systematic racism. And I learned it in this way. One day, as I was coming into school, I was wearing a baseball cap. And going through the doors into the school, somebody snatched the cap off my head. So when I got into my classroom, I went and told my teacher about it. And my teacher, Frau Berkeley, asked whether I had seen the kid who had taken my hat. And I said, well, I think maybe I did. So she called the principal's office, and the vice principal came down and took me around to every class in the school so I could see if I could spot the culprit, some person who had stolen my baseball cap. I did not. And yet, years later, when I was reflecting on this experience, I realized that all of these African-American kids had had their education interrupted in that moment because one of the 20 or so white kids in the entire school had had something stolen from them. And in this moment, I thank God that I did not see somebody who I thought might have been the culprit, because it was a hat. It was worth maybe $10. And at that time, if I had seen the person who had taken my hat and had been able to name them, that person would have probably gotten detention or maybe been suspended, which would have been bad enough, a bad enough interruption to that person's education. But today, with policing in schools, that person might have had a record against them. They might have been charged with theft. They might have entered a juvenile detention system, which is not really set up to redeem anybody, but only to punish. And that person could have started, because of my naming them, could have started down a really terrible road of future imprisonment, being part of the prison industrial complex. That would have been horrible for them, and it would have been horrible to have on my conscience. And I'm so glad that I was not able to spot and name this person. What we need is not for white principals to take white kids from classroom to classroom in a school, interrupting everybody's education because apparently a crime against a white kid is so serious that this has to happen, even a very minor crime. What we need is not policing in schools. We need restorative justice in schools. We need a chance for people to simply come together and say, yeah, that was a minor crime, and I'm already embarrassed that so much fuss has been made up over this hat that was taken from me, which I don't even care about. So let's just restore our relationship and it will be fine. That would be such a better world. And that is the kind of thing that Bread is working on. Stories like mine should not exist. White children should not get to interrupt the education of everybody else simply because a very small item was taken from them. Kids make mistakes. We all do. Whoever took that hat made a mistake. We need restorative practices to give kids a second chance so that they don't end up in the school to prison pipeline for something so simple. Mary Ginther, I and many of my colleagues among the Columbus clergy are calling on you to meet with Brad so that we can continue to keep kids in the community and out of the court system, and so that we can make sure that people are fed and housed and taken care of in this great city of ours. Thank you for your time.